There comes a time in every soul's journey when the light you once felt so close seems to vanish. It doesn't fade, you do. You wander into the places your heart swore it would never go, chasing noise to fill the silence God once occupied. But even in the deepest dark, light never forgets the way back to you. It hides behind the things you call accidents, inside the pauses that feel like endings, beneath the quiet that terrifies you. Because light is not what you find, it's what finds you. The angels do not leave when you fall. They wait. They walk the edge of your despair, their wings brushing softly against your unseen pain. And though you may think heaven turned away, it's only because you closed your eyes. Every distance between you and the divine is only measured by memory, not by truth. Because even when your faith forgets, your soul remembers. And that's where the light begins, not in victory, but in surrender. In that single moment when you finally whisper, "I can't find you," that's when heaven answers, "You don't have to, I already have." You've spent years searching for what was never lost, running toward every glow, hoping it would finally be the light that stays. But you were never meant to chase it. The light was always meant to chase you. The divine doesn't need to be found. It only needs to be remembered. Because long before you started looking, heaven had already marked the path back home. The angel of remembrance walks beside you, gathering every prayer you thought had disappeared, every cry that never reached your lips. Sometimes, the more you search, the further you wander from what is already inside you. Because the search becomes a noise, and light speaks only in silence. That's why it waits in stillness, behind the noise of your thoughts, beyond the ache of your questions. You were never abandoned, only unaware. For the light that saves doesn't appear when you call. It appears when you stop running, when your exhaustion outweighs your pride, and your heart becomes quiet enough to hear the whisper, "I was here all along." And in that moment, you realize the truth the dark never wanted you to know. That every step away was also a step closer, because grace has no direction. It meets you wherever you fall and calls that place holy. Pain has a strange way of disguising grace. It buries light under layers of hurt, making you believe that healing means forgetting. But the truth is softer and far more beautiful. The light never leaves your wounds. It lives in them, waiting to be seen. Every scar on your soul is a doorway. Every tear that fell was holy water, because somewhere beneath the ache, something sacred survived. The angel of healing doesn't erase your past. He transforms it. He turns memory into mercy and pain into passage. You thought the broken pieces of you were proof that you'd failed the journey, but to heaven, those cracks were openings wide enough for light to enter. Because light doesn't avoid the shattered, it seeks it. It knows that the only place it can truly dwell is in the places humble enough to receive it. So when you whisper, "Why did this happen to me?" the light answers softly, "So I could reach you there." And the moment you stop asking to forget, and instead ask to understand, you begin to see what the dark was protecting, the seed of glory buried in grief. It never died. It only waited. There is a moment when everything stops. When the storm no longer roars and silence becomes louder than fear. It's not the end, it's recognition. Because that's the moment the light finally reaches you. Not because you climbed high enough, but because it decided the time had come. It doesn't arrive with thunder or spectacle. It appears quietly, in the middle of your surrender, in the tear that falls when words fail. Heaven doesn't need permission to enter. It only needs openness. And the instant your heart softens, light rushes in like breath returning to lungs. The angel of awakening stands beside you then, not to lecture, but to embrace. He whispers your name the way heaven first spoke it, reminding you of who you were before the world forgot. You don't see wings or halos. You feel warmth, you feel peace, you feel seen fully, deeply, eternally, and you realize that the light never had to travel far. It was only waiting for your walls to fall, because the distance between despair and deliverance is often just one moment of surrender. And when that moment arrives, you don't find the light. You remember it. Heaven never rushes your return. It does not demand that you rise before you're ready, nor condemn the time you spent in shadows, because even your wandering has purpose. The light that found you could have forced its way in, but grace prefers to wait. The angel of patience stood beside you, in every silence unseen, unmoving, unshaken. He watched your tears not as tragedy, but as timing, because heaven measures readiness, not worth. And when your heart finally whispered, "I miss the light," the universe shifted. In that instant, all of heaven leaned closer. The prayers you forgot, the love you doubted, the faith you abandoned, they never left. They simply circled above your timeline, waiting for you to open your hands again. Because mercy doesn't expire. You thought the delay was punishment, but it was preparation. The light wasn't waiting for the world to change. It was waiting for you to trust it again. And when you finally did, everything that once felt late suddenly arrived, right on time. Heaven never stopped believing in you. It just waited for the moment you'd believe again. And when that happened, the light didn't just find you, it ran to you. Coming back to the light doesn't look like triumph. It looks like trembling hands, quiet tears, and the first breath of peace after years of holding it in. It's not loud, it's holy. It doesn't need applause, it only needs honesty. Because the return is never about perfection, it's about permission to begin again. The angel of return doesn't open the gates with ceremony. He opens them with compassion. He doesn't ask, "Where have you been?" He says, "I knew you'd make it." Because to heaven, every step back is already a celebration. The light doesn't ask for your old strength. It asks for your willingness to trust again. You don't need to know the path. You only need to move toward warmth. And when you do, the glow inside you begins to pulse again, as if your spirit remembers its own language. You'll feel fragile, uncertain, maybe even unworthy. But the light doesn't care about worthiness, only openness, because grace can fill what guilt cannot. It restores not by forgetting what was lost, but by making it meaningful. Every return is sacred, not because it erases what came before, but because it redeems it. And the moment you take that first step, you realize the path home was never gone. You had only closed your eyes. Once the light finds you, it never leaves. It becomes the quiet presence beside you, guiding your steps without forcing them, reminding you that guidance is not control, it's companionship. The angel of presence doesn't walk ahead or behind. He matches your pace, turning every path, even the uncertain ones, into purpose. You'll notice it in moments you least expect. A song that finds you at the right second, a word that calms you before panic grows, a silence that suddenly feels safe. That's how heaven speaks now. Not in thunder, but in alignment. The light beside you doesn't remove struggle, it transforms it. Pain still comes, but it no longer owns you. Fear still whispers, but faith answers louder. You begin to see how every detour, every loss, was never about breaking you. It was about bringing you closer to this awareness. You start walking differently, not because the path got easier, but because you no longer walk alone. And even when you don't feel it, you know it's there, like warmth that never fully fades after sunrise. The world calls it coincidence. Your soul calls it proof, because once light chooses you, darkness only becomes contrast, a way to see grace more clearly. There comes a moment when you stop fearing the dark, not because it's gone, but because you finally understand it. Shadows aren't proof of absence, they're evidence of light. They exist only because something luminous stands nearby. The angel of illumination teaches this truth. He doesn't fight darkness, he reveals it, because what's exposed to light loses its power to wound. That's why grace doesn't destroy your past, it redefines it. Every pain that once chained you becomes the pedestal that lifts your faith higher. You begin to notice how even your hardest seasons were never wasted. The betrayals, the losses, the unanswered prayers, each one carved space for divine light to dwell deeper. The very things that made you question God were the doors through which you came to know Him. And when the light within you grows strong enough, the shadows don't vanish. They bow. They stop being enemies and become witnesses. They testify that you survived. They remind you that even darkness obeys the one who created it. So the next time the night returns, don't run. Stand still, because somewhere in that darkness, your name is glowing, and heaven is waiting for you to see it. The day will come when you realize the light you searched for your whole life was growing inside you all along. It began as a whisper, then became warmth, and finally, revelation. Because the purpose of being found by light is not to worship it from afar, but to become what it taught you to see. You are no longer the one who wanders. You are the one who guides. Your scars become lanterns for those still lost. Your silence becomes language for those who can't pray. And your peace, once fragile, now speaks louder than every storm that tried to break you. The angel of reflection stands near, smiling. He doesn't speak, he mirrors. He lets you see what heaven has always seen. And for the first time, you recognize your own glow. You don't need to chase miracles anymore. You've become one. You forgive the years that hurt you. You bless the nights that shaped you. And you thank the light for never giving up, even when you did. Because now you understand. Grace doesn't just reach down. It rises through you. The world around you may still spin in chaos, but you stand still, luminous, grounded, eternal. Because once the light finds you, it never leaves empty-handed. It leaves transformed, because you became its home. There is no final chapter for those who walk with light. It doesn't fade, it evolves. What began as a rescue becomes a relationship, and what started in darkness becomes devotion. The angel of completion doesn't close books, he opens eternity. He shows you that light isn't a destination, it's the essence of everything you are. You were never meant to return to how things were. You were meant to rise into what you've become. The storms no longer scare you because you've learned they can't drown light. The shadows no longer haunt you because you've seen them kneel. And time no longer threatens you because you now understand that eternity lives inside this moment. The light that found you never leaves. It walks beside you in every silence, sings through every sunrise, and whispers through every breath you take. It will guide you long after clocks stop ticking, because what heaven begins, time cannot undo. And someday, when this world falls quiet again and your final breath becomes prayer, you'll see the same glow that once met you in the dark, waiting, smiling, welcoming you home. Because in the end, you'll realize what the journey was always about. You were never searching for the light was always searching for you.